Islands, Anguilla, and, by the look of it, the Turks and Caicos Islands. And that is why the crisis centres in the Foreign Office and DFID are working absolutely joined at the hip to make sure that our response is as effective and as rapid as it possibly can be.
Willie Bolton.
Deputy Speaker, I would like to add my thanks to the Minister for coming and giving his statement to his department and those involved.
I'm very happy, Mr Deputy Speaker, to give that assurance, and I can tell the House from my own experience that this does come in phases. You have to start with, of course, the urgent cases of injury, you have homelessness, the need for food and water, and then there is the very important process of the follow-up to make sure that issues of infrastructure and reconstruction are properly planned for and delivered.
Toby Packard.
Mr Deputy Speaker, I spoke this morning, just a few moments ago, to Kennedy Hodge, an Anguillan student who's arrived just today in Chesterfield. He has laid out the scale of the devastation in Anguilla, quite unlike anything they've seen before. Now, the Minister was at pains to explain the difference between our relationship and that of the French government with their overseas territory. But if he is to make good on achieving the same objectives that they have set out, he will know we need a great deal greater resource than we currently have. The French government put a lot more into St Martin than we have into Anguilla. So will the Minister lay out what resources we'll be able to provide, both from a military point of view to deal with the immediate humanitarian catastrophe and also to support the Anguillan government with the support it's going to need for the schools, for the hospital, for the airport, for the prisons, for all of the devastated infrastructure that they're going to need to be able to get back on their feet?
No, I quite understand what the Honourable Gentleman is saying in respect of Anguilla, because there have been some comments in the media comparing our response with that of the French. But I very much hope that I can give the Honourable Gentleman and the House genuine reassurance on this. We are very well practised in emergency response, and we place a Royal Auxiliary vessel in the area almost every year, I think every year, in anticipation of hurricane risk. In this case, the hurricane has been really quite extraordinarily severe. But the advantage of having the Royal Auxiliary vessel is that you do not trap response resources in a country or on an island which might more importantly be needed in a neighbouring island. So the auxiliary vessel has flexibility. It has the ability to make and deliver water. It has the likes of bulldozers. It has a helicopter. Because crucially, you can have resources on an island, but then the roads get blocked. But if you've got an auxiliary vessel with a chopper, you can actually go to the people in need very, very quickly. So the Royal Auxiliary vessel, I would argue, is a fantastic resource, which we should be very proud of. It's got marines, military engineers, resources, food, supplies, and it can deploy flexibly according to the urgency and need of the devastating path of a hurricane. Because you never know until it's happened where the need is greatest. So I think we should be proud of this, and as I said earlier, and I say it again, we can supplement this initial urgent response with other relief flights supported, provided by DFID out of the disaster relief funding we have, and I think over time this House will see that our response will have proved effective and good for the people we're there to look after.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. My thoughts go out to people like Victor Banks, Orlando Smith and Dom Romeo, who I worked with quite closely and have been trying to contact. But does this immediate crisis not highlight a conundrum that wealthy overseas territories have preferential treatment and first call on the DFID budget? The nature of middle-income status really doesn't recognise the very real environmental risks that small island states have, and actually how can he leverage his time both at DFID and the Foreign Office to make sure this little conundrum is perhaps served under his time and service?
Well, can I first of all acknowledge the service of my honourable friend as a former Foreign Office Minister with great knowledge of this field. But he is really asking me to sort of dissect and explain or even give an intellectual thesis of what one might call the ODA conundrum, where overseas development assistance funding qualifies in some cases but not in others, but when it comes to hurricanes and typhoons, the argument may well be, well, wish you'd spent money in advance and that kind of thing. But I'm sure greater thought will be given to this, but DFID will do its utmost with the resources it has to make sure that we address need where